everyone, and welcome to SQM Picks. I'm David Lipton. For those of you new to SQM Picks, our company SQM first started a blog several years ago to highlight businesses that provide outstanding customer service. Businesses that have been featured range from small mom and pop companies to some of the larger international brands. Highlighted companies come from a number of different industries, including restaurants, retail stores, medical offices, lawyers, and various tourist attractions. We've also featured an auto body shop and a junkyard in the blogs, which just goes to prove that any business can provide outstanding service. Our guest today is Kristine Hubbard, General Manager and owner of Beck Taxi. Initially founded by her grandfather, Beck is one of the oldest taxi cab companies in the city. Kristine, welcome to SQM Picks.
Hi, David. Thanks for having me.
So tell us a little bit more about the business. What areas of the city do you service? And I believe Beck is more than just taxis, so tell us more about the various services which you offer.
Right. So we operate in Toronto proper, I guess, north to Steeles, west to the 427, east to Pickering or the Rouge, and then, of course, south to the lake. We offer services by way of transportation, all of it, but getting your packages or food or kids to school, contracts through hospitals, all the way through to getting you home after a late night out with friends downtown.
Interesting. So you could even expand south of the lake. We'll just have to get you into the water taxi business as well, right?
That's right. Yeah, water taxis. It's not the first time we've heard it. Beck Bike, Beck Black. There's all kinds of options out there, but I think we'll stick to what we know for now, and always exploring those. Keeping those things in mind.
So tell me a little bit about how Beck is different. How do you differentiate yourself from the rideshare companies? I know you and I have talked a lot about that over the last couple of years.
I think there are a few things that differentiate us. I mean, we have two sets of customers. We have drivers and we have riders, and we do really value that relationship between our company and drivers. And I think that would be the first thing that differentiates us between, from the ride hail or rideshare companies. Those relationships matter. And when you get into a taxi, when you get into a Beck Taxi and you've used our app, what you pay is exactly what the driver gets. And this is really an important piece about work-life quality and being able to make a meaningful living. I think, the fact that we work within the limited number of vehicles that the city allows, this also ensures that people are able to make a living. On the customer-facing side, Beck, as you can see in the painting behind me, the branding is very, very well known in the city, and we have maintained that branding, and we don't allow any other kind of advertising or, rooftop, personal injury lawyer ads to follow on our sort of very prime real estate that we have traveling around the city. Full commercial insurance, drivers who have vulnerable sector checks, the training that's involved, the dedication to service. So I think, there are so many things that separate us from them. This is not just about getting someone from point A to point B. This is about, assisting, my 94-year-old grandmother with her walker. It's about making sure that people are getting in the door safely at night, and knowing that, we have open communication between drivers and with our riders.
Interesting. Now, I know you touched on it, but one of my other questions was, you've been in business for many years. How do you build strong relationships with your clients? My dad knows your family, and I speak to drivers all the time, and it's certainly your training goes a long way to helping that. But what else do you do? What's the recipe for success when it comes to building relationships with the clients?
Well, I think the first, what people expect if they're getting into a vehicle, first of all, it's fast service, getting there. Our service times are about 3 minutes to pick up. And, it's a driver who doesn't rely on GPS to get to where they're going. So while others are sitting in traffic, you've got your taxi driver who knows all the back ways and the sideways and how to get to you to where you need to be without having to look at his cell phone map or what have you to get there. There's also just, the difference between ride hailing and taxis, and this is still very much the case. Taxi drivers are there to talk to you. There's a conversation there that happens that doesn't happen with ride-hail drivers. You'll see, anytime I look into the window of a ride-hail, the customer is on the phone, the drivers, there's no connection there. And, we have requirements in terms of cleanliness and, age of vehicle requirements that go above and beyond what the city prescribes. It's donating back, giving back to local community charitable events, and knowing that taxi drivers are a part of this community, I think goes a long way to maintaining that connection, because your taxi driver could be your neighbor, frankly.
Now, somebody also told me that, much to people's surprise, is that taxis are often less expensive these days than ride share apps or ride shares. That some people say that they like the guarantee that they know how much the price of the journey of the trip is going to cost, but in many cases they don't realize that it's actually more expensive than if they were using a taxi cab. Is that actually the case?
Absolutely. What Uber did in this city and so many around the world is the oldest trick in the book. They were able to come into a regulated industry, undercut the market to try to gain that customer base so they could become a monopoly and increase the rates to whatever they want. So, of course, this has played out as it has over hundreds of years, just in different scenarios. But using the Beck Taxi app, for example, you do get an estimate of your ride. There is no, and it's a very close estimate. The issue is, we all know in this city, traffic happens and people get paid for their time. The idea that the Uber app is giving you a dedicated cost or giving you that sort of guaranteed cost, they either have to increase the estimate in order to cover that traffic, so you're paying more, or the driver is getting ripped off and not getting paid for the time it takes to get you to where you're going. So there is this sort of hostage taking, depending on, if it's the customer, okay, well, you're going to pay more because we think the traffic's going to be bad. And then in the case of the driver, well, sorry, this is how much we told them they were going to pay. And the driver, even worse than that, might get 30% of that fare. So they can't say anything, because then they risk being cut off the platform. There's just such a snowball effect to all of these things. But yeah, taxis are very often cheaper. Certainly for the, booting around the city, if we're taking you out to Sudbury, yeah, you might find it cheaper with an Uber driver, but that comes along with a whole host of other challenges when you're dealing with Uber.
Oh, I'm just mind boggled by, people who squawk about airfare or the gas prices or whatnot, and then they just willy-nilly will spend more on it, and their answer is that they like the certainty. Well, the certainty comes with a premium. So
Right.
and yeah, traffic around the city is crazy. I just want to get one of those permits that the city seems to issue to FedEx and Purelator and the Amazon drivers, that lets you take up a lane of traffic on a main street just because you want to deliver things. Boy, oh boy, I wish I could just park wherever I want like that. Anyway,
Yeah.
Listen, it has been a pleasure chatting with you, Kristine. I know the taxi cab industry has been challenging over the past few years. I applaud you and your team for providing amazing service. In addition, it's great to see all your efforts to advocate and be such a spokesperson for the taxi drivers, the owners, and the companies here in the city. It's always a pleasure speaking to you about business, and please keep up the great work. While your contact information is going to show up on the screen, please tell everyone how they can contact your business.
The best way to contact Beck Taxi is feedback@becktaxi.com. If you're looking for a ride, definitely download the Beck app. You can find it on the App Store or Google Play. You can also call us for that service or order online, but the best way to send any feedback is feedback@becktaxi.com.
Perfect. Thanks very much, Kristine. On that note, I want to thank everybody for watching another episode of SQM Picks. Since we're always on the lookout for companies that provide outstanding customer service, if you know of any that you would like to nominate, please send an email about the business to sqmpicks@sqm.ca. Thanks again for joining us, and look for another company to be featured on SQM Picks shortly.